Hey everyone, Paul Sam. Welcome to part 2 of our Tamiya 124th Peugeot 307 WRC build. Before we get going today, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the little bell notifications, get notified of all our latest videos. Click the like button and leave a comment. I do read and reply to all the comments and appreciate everybody that takes the time to leave a comment on the channel. And of course, if you scroll up in the description, there's a link to a big long list of all the items I use in my videos. So if you see anything, you should be able to find it in there. So in part 1, we prepped, primed, painted, decaled, washed, and 2K'd all the bodywork. So that's been left. It's been nearly a month since the first part. I've been torn and pulled every which way but loose lately, with UMP being so busy, family being at home, what's going on, my own well-being. I've also started building armour again. I built a T72, as you might have seen. I've got a Leopard on the go. So yes, I'm all over the place, but I haven't given up cars, I haven't given up bikes. The bike is still there. Everybody keeps asking me, when I feel like working on it, I'll work on it. It's as simple as that. That is a very, very in-depth build, and I want to be in the right frame of mind for that. Same with the McLaren. The McLaren's not gone, it's under there, the bike's right there, they're not forgotten about. I will get to them. This is my hobby, don't forget, and I do this for my own sanity. So we will get back to them. This has got one more part after today, so we can pick a new subject then as well, and we'll progress along. But sorry about the delay in it. It's not that I forgot about it, just working on different things, busy doing other stuff, and looking after my family as well. So today we're going to deal with all the chassis, running gear, all the interior, the wheels, roll cage, everything. There is a lot to do today. I filmed this over 4 days. There's a lot of work to get to this stage. So I've cut out all the rubbish and we've just got all the important bits. Hopefully it's enough and interesting to watch. Let me know what you think. And yes, so there we go. Let's get cracking and let's make a start. Okay, so in part 1 we dealt with all our bodywork. Today we're going to deal with all the running gear, including all the suspension, brakes, chassis, etc. Then onto the interior, with the roll cage, seats, etc. So we've got quite a lot of work to get through today. So as you can see, we've got all the suspension components with the brakes, got all the running gear itself, attaching to the metal chassis, dashboard, seats, all the interior components. Got some seat belts to do as well, which I'm going to do in a slightly different way today. And we've got all our road cage to assemble as well. With all the road wheels, some decaling, some detail painting. Like I say, quite a bit to get through today, so we're not going to linger around on every step. We're going to get straight to it and get to work. So we've got plenty of components to cut off and clean up. Various coloured sprues. As you see, we've got a lot to cut off, clean up, prime, paint, detail, etc. So we're going to start with our running gear, but first there's our car body we painted in part 1. Not about 2K job at all. There's no real dust in this whatsoever. So just need a light go over some 12,000 micro mesh and a polish up. And I think we're good to go. It's a very striking scheme. I always like this Pirelli scheme on the 307. So looking forward to getting this one attached to the chassis and seeing what it looks like. So we've also painted up our metal chassis as well. We've only painted yellow underneath. It does call out for multiple colours underneath. We're probably just going to leave it yellow because I'll never see underneath again. And it doesn't particularly bother me all that much. If you want to paint it up, you can paint it up, mask it up, paint it, but that's it. So I painted the chassis up with same colour as the body, and it was just left as is. I think it was TS14, I think it was we did it with. I forget now. So we've got some important components here. We're going to cut off and put to one side for now. Ones we don't actually need to paint just yet. The rest of the components, we're going to cut them all off, clean them all up, and mount them on cotton bud, cocktail sticks or clips or whatever we need to use, and get them prepared, ready for primer. So we're going to cut them as close as we can with the sprue cutters, and then we use a sander to clean them up and get them looking as good as new again. So they've been cut off now. As you can see, we've got one of the UMP customizable sanders. We'll just clean up all the edges where the sprue points were. Now this kit does come with a couple of differences that Tamiya kits don't normally come with. Number one, the calipers are separate. You could paint them separately and glue them on. I find it easier to glue it all in place now to save any unsightly glue marks later. And we just brush paint them as we always do. Also on this has got female fitting wheels. So it's normally a male component on the wheels. On this, it's the opposite way around. The polycaps are actually in the rims. No idea why Tamiya did that. I don't know if I prefer it or not. I don't know, but I've built a few of these now, and yeah, they go together, no problem at all. So it's no real issue. Just something to bear in mind if you feel like changing the wheels. You might have a little bit of difficulty, but I know the likes of Aoshima and Fujimi use this kind of mounting system, so it's something to keep in mind should you wish to change them. So all parts cleaned up and mounted up. There's quite a lot of them. We've got our Ultimate Apex with the 0.35 needle. We've got UMP black primer. We're at about 25-30 psi, and we're going to give these all a couple of coats of primer. So always make sure your primer is properly shaken up. I've done this off camera. Just a quick go over there too. Generous amount. We're going to use more than this as we go. So a quick test spray. My extractor boot is on. I've got a glove on to stop any mess on my hands, and we're just going to start with a light coat and everything. We're not going to hose it on. We need to get that first light coat down, and then we can start coming in with slightly heavier coats as we go. So first time using my newly designed spray booth as well. It's the same extractor, the Benchvent A300, but I've made a completely new surround with foam board. It's now got a roof on it as well, and yeah, I think it's going to be a bit better for spraying because my temporary bin bag roof proved that it does stop a lot of the dust settling. So there we go, quick fine dust coat all around. I call it a dust coat. It's semi dust coat, semi proper coat, kind of like we're doing on this part here. So we don't want to put it on too heavy, just enough to get some coverage, because if you start to flood it, you start to get some real issues then. But we're just going to get it from all different angles, make sure we get nice even coverage. Then we'll put it down for 5 minutes, let it dry off a little bit, and then come back and put a second coat down. So there we go. Just cover as much white as you can without flooding the surface. You'll get used to using this the more you use it. It's a very, very forgiving primer, and it works fantastic in combination with our airbrush. So this is about the second coat now. I think this is left to dry, come back, making sure we've got all those mist areas now, and just giving a nice even coat all over. As you can see, we've gone down a little bit wetter this time, because we've got our dust coat there. Same with the roll cage, it's already had a coat. I'm just going to go around and make sure it's all evenly covered. Roll cage is a little bit tricky to spray, and you will get a bit of wastage of paint because obviously you're missing half of the area as you spray it, but make sure you get all those angles, keep turning it, shake your paint when you refill, and yeah, just make sure you get all those crevices and angles and what have you. It's nothing worse than a primer session and you realise you've either missed out a part or left out a section of it. Now the wheels. We've gone for Tamiya lacquer primer out of the spray cans, fine surface primer. Why? Because it was a hand, it was literally there, and I used it. No particular reason. UMP white primer, all this, either will do the job great, but this was just at hand, and I just grabbed it. I like to switch and change what I use, as you well know, and all these products I use can be found in the description in this video. It takes you a big long list with links to where you can get most of them from. So a couple of coats of this as well, getting inside, outside, all the different angles inside the rims. Now after the primer's dried overnight, we're back the next day. We've got some LP5 thinned with lacquer thinner with retarder from Tamiya. We've got our 0.35 Apex, we're about 18 psi. We're thinned about 70%, so that's 70% thinner, 30% paint. And again, we're going to come in with some couple of coats of this. Now with being lacquer, you don't need to be as careful, you'll be a bit more liberal as I am here. I've used this for a long time now, I know how far I can push it. If you're not sure, just stick with light coats and do 3 coats maybe. For me, I'll get this in a couple. It's just with everything, the more you use it, the better you'll get. So just take your time, just be aware. But I know how far I can push this. It's a very, very forgiving paint. Works really, really well. So like I say, we'll give them a coat to begin with, let them dry. By the time we've gone around the whole pad of parts, by the time we come back, these will be ready for another coat. It dries that fast. And if it doesn't, you can give it a helping hand with your airbrush. So about going out of focus, because I've moved the camera, I forgot to move the focal point. So I fix it in a bit. You might see the camera wobble on this section. when I realised I just need to push it forward a bit, because what it does, it picks up the camera in shot, the airbrush in shot instead of the part. So don't worry, I will get it for the next video. Just in this one, bear with me. Like I said, it's a new setup. Everything's in a different position. So for now, just needs a bit of tweaking. So we've got some Tamiya TS17s. This is the spray can, decanted, thinned about 20% with the Tamiya lacquer thinner retarder. We've already given it a coat. I'm coming around with a second coat. I'll give this 3 coats in the end. I found it needs 3 coats, and it does like a wetter coat near the end. It doesn't like to go on dry, this stuff. So I don't mean hose it on, but just put it on decent, so you get a nice wet coat, and you'll see it all settle. You get a beautiful metallic finish then. So again, making sure you get all those different recesses and angles. There's plenty of them on the roll cages. It's quite easy to miss a section. Just take your time, and it'll lay down beautifully. I do really like the TS sprays. They're just as good as the LP. We've got some TS26 now white. Now, I do kind of prefer the LPs, if I'm honest, but I have loads of these TS sprays, which I'm kind of flipping between what I've got, what's already decanted, and what I'm using. I've got over 100 cans of TS spray. I'm not going to not use them because of LPs. So yeah, we're picking them out and use them as we go. This is Mr. Colour Red. It's a bottle I've had thinned in a dropper bottle for months now, and all I use it on is fire extinguishers, so it's going to last quite a while. And again, it's one of those things, I've got it, I may as well use it. 2 light coats should give us enough coverage. If not, give it a third to get that nice deep red look. And again, being a lacquer, it is very forgiving. Oh, all over the bench. That's never happened before. Yes, there we go. So dashboard, we're using a grey. I just picked out a darkish grey from the LP range, no particular colour, because it calls out for the dashboard to be grey. And again, we'll give it a couple of light coats, making sure we've got all the angles, and yeah, spot on. Perfect colour, happy with that. Give it a quick dry before we go over it again. And there we go. Either way, you can't go wrong with any of the Tamiya lacquers, be it the TS sprays, decanted, through the rattle can, or the LPs. They're all phenomenal. They're by far my favourite paints. And yeah. Right, some Zero Paint Texture Black now. We're going to spray up our seats. I didn't do the microbloom trick this time, but we are going to use this. As you see, it's very thick in the bottom. So we need to use our Badger paint mixer to give it a real good mix up. We're about 25 psi. I've upped the pressure on this more than I normally would. Again, I apologise about the focus. I do fix it, don't worry. I think I've just done it there. In fact, there we go. By moving the focal point forward, it focuses on the seat with the airbrush. So as you can see, we get a textured look. We're having a slightly higher pressure, and I'm holding the airbrush a good 8 inches away. It's dry before it hits, and we're getting a nice textured look to the seat. So 2 or 3 coats of that stuff. It absolutely stinks. Make sure you've got a good extractor and or spray booth for sure. And just give it a few little coats, and it will add a nice textured look to the seat. I think I do prefer the microblooms look, but again, something different. I thought we'd use this again. I always switch and change. I never stick to the same paint or what have you. It's just one of those. So Tamiya, I think it's LP62. Let me just check. It's up on my shelf. It is a titanium gold for the brake calipers. Brush paint on. This is just out of the bottle. Just shut the bottle, taking the lid off and using the lid as a paint cup. And they do brush paint pretty well, the LPs. Try and go over as little as possible. You don't need a massive amount of it, but make sure there's plenty on the brush and just give it nice light coats, and it will brush paint beautifully. So 4 calipers in total to do. Leave those to dry for a little bit. And now we've got some decals on our dashboard. We've got some decals on the seats to do. There's a few of them here and there, and we're just going to go around and put them on. So standard practice, we've got a little pot full of water. It's not warm because there's only a few to do. We've got some fire extinguisher decals. Dashboard is already done, as you can see. We've got the seat belts to do. We're going to do those in a different way, like I said. And we've got the seat backs to put on as well. So like I said, we are kind of stuck for time today, so I'm not going to linger around forever showing you this. You've seen me apply decals before. If you've not, go over to my How I Use Decal Solutions video and have a look at that. But basically, we're wetting them, letting them across the back of paper, put them on, removing the excess water, and we're going to hit this with the ultimate strong straight away, just with the strong, to make sure that they settle perfectly. We don't need to move them around, they're positioned correctly, so it's just a case of hitting them with the solution and leaving them be. Now, we've got some supposed Brembo brake caliper markings. I think they actually say Brembo on this, but from a distance they look correct. So there's 4 of them, one for each caliper. Make sure you position it right, then hit it with the decal solution. Again, using the strong. It's been on the brush, don't need to re-dip it. And we'll just give it a wipe over once it's dry for a couple of seconds, just to make sure it's in the right position. I'm probably distracted, squirreled on the computer here, playing around. But I always leave them for a second or two, just to make sure they're in the right place. And there we go. Push it up. Job done. And then we just hit it with our solution. So there's already plenty of solution on the brush. I always use the water brushes. There's nothing in them. I just like the actual brush. There's a few decals for the wheels as well. I chose not to do them all. I've just put the Oz Rims ones on. They're a bit tricky to get in place, but once you get them in, they're pretty easy to do. See, they rather stick to the tweezers rather than the model. A little bit more water will sort that. So once the decals are on, we've got tyres mounted as well, and now we've got our tyre markings. Now, a lot of other people struggle with these, but they're pretty simple. Cut them out to the shape of the tyre. So I like to add a little curve so it goes over the wheel. Then peel the backing paper off. Use tweezers or a knife. There we go. You peel it off, reverse it round so you can read the writing correct. So that should be the paper at the top with the writing the correct way round. Pop it in place where you want it. A little dab of water on your finger. Make sure it's positioned correctly before you do this. So, happy it's in place. Hold one side with your finger. I like to wet my finger, touch it, let the paper soak in the water, and add a touch more. Just press it home lightly. What you don't want to do now is stick to your finger. Just leave it a second or two. Then press down with a cotton bud. This does two things. It removes any excess water and it pushes the decal onto the surface. Then take your tweezers and very gently lift it up at the back. And if it comes off in one go, brilliant. If it doesn't and it lifts, put it back down. Don't commit to lifting it all off until you know every single letter is down. And then just remove the excess water. Leave those to dry for 10 minutes, and then you can always hit them with some decal solution should you wish, which I did. I hit them with the strong again. Got the Tamiya panel liner, the black. We're just going to mark around the road wheels. And then I thought, we'll infill the little spokes on this one, just for a bit of detail. I did this and then kind of thought, don't know if I like that, but it's a bit late. It'd be an absolute nightmare to get out, so I left it be. Remove the excess. Once it's dry, get a cotton bud, bit of mineral spirits, and it will wipe off. We'll also go around and do all the calipers and any other part of recessed details that we can get a wash into. Let it dry. It dries very quick. It's enamel based, but it does dry really fast. Once it's dry, wipe off any excess, and jobs are done. So there we go. There's not a huge amount of detail on this kit. I've got to admit, it's a good kit. It's definitely not one of Tamiya's most detailed kits. It's a bit bland in places, but I just like the car. I like the car itself. So, seats. We've got the carbon composite decals to go on the back. These are quite tricky to do, so I like to line the sides up first, get those in place, get them set, and then do the centre part first. So we've got the UMP strong solution again. I know these need strong to get them down, so we're just going straight to that. And we're just carefully applying it, make sure everything is where we want it. Once you've got them in place, you can leave it be for 5-10 minutes. And then come on, put the centerpiece in. Being 3-part, they're a lot easier. If you do get one that's a full piece, I had to cut them into 3s anyway. It makes life a lot easier to do, and the result is much better. So there we go, this is centerpiece in now. Move it round, you have no gaps anywhere. Make sure it's orientated right at the top. It does look like there's a gap there. There actually isn't. I don't know what's going on there because I've looked at the seat since doing this and it looks like it's not quite reach one side. But to me, it looks spot on. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But when I look at them, there's no gap. They look fine. Seat belts. Now, we normally always use fabric belts. So fabric and PE, they're a bit laborious. They take a while to build. You can use the decals and stick them straight on. To me, they don't look as good. They look a bit poxy and a bit rubbish in my opinion. So another little trick, I can't remember where I picked this up now, is to keep the decals on their backing paper and cut them out. So cut around them as close as you can, and then we're going to stick these on the seat, and because it gives a 3D effect, it's kind of an in-between. It's not quite as good as a fabric belt, but it looks better than sticking the decals on, in my opinion. So cut them apart, cut as much off as you can with scissors, and then use a very sharp knife with a fresh blade and cut around them all. And I like the effect. I think it works quite well. As you can see, we've just got a nice and close. We've got the Tamiya decal scissors, which are fantastic. I've had this pair of scissors for about 8 years, and they're still going strong to this day. Thinking about it, no, I haven't. This is my second pair. I'll take that back. I had to pause for a second, and I couldn't quite remember. I think I have had a new pair. I think I damaged them cutting something I shouldn't have. So yeah, these are probably a couple of years old. But the other pair I had was 6 years old, and they were perfect for one spot. I think I tried to cut a piece of wire a bit stupidly, as you do. So as you can see, we cut all the majority off with the knife. Just removing it carefully. Like I say, it takes time. It's not as quick as using a decal. It's a lot quicker than making them out of fabric and PE. But I think the effect isn't too bad at all, personally. Just takes a little bit of careful cutting. And it gives a pretty decent effect for your seatbelt. So you used this technique before, let me know. I can't remember where I saw it originally, but it's a good little trick. Well, it's a good little tip or trick. Still prefer the fabric ones, but I just thought for this video we'd show them. I don't think I've showed them in a video before like this. But there we go. So it's mostly cut off. Now I was at first going to go around with a red marker, and I thought, yeah, and then I thought, no, let's do black. It gives it a proper outline, and I think it'll get a bit more depth. But you could use either or. You see my mind ticking over like, nah. Put that back, we'll get the black one. This is a black Heading 400. I've just refilled this. I've had this for a couple of years now, and I've just refilled it with an ink refill from Amazon. And all we're going to do is go all down the sides, and it will cover up all that white card and make it look a lot more realistic. So there we go, all the way around. As you can see, it gets rid of that unsightly white edge, and it makes it look a lot better. If you've got an area you can't quite get to, just dab it in or come from underneath, let it soak through, and there we go. Doesn't look too bad at all. We'll zoom in and have a little look. Like I say, not as good as a fabric belt, but once it's on the seat, you get a 3D effect. We're going to use a double-sided tape we use with the fabric. Just one single piece. We're going to pop it on with an angle bit so it's just over the holes in the back of the seat. And that way, once it's in place, we can just push it through a touch, as you'll see me doing in a second with the tweezers. There we go. Make sure it's where we want it. And there we go. So as you can see, we've done the double-sided tape just big enough to sit in there, but not big enough that you can see it. I will learn one day not to zoom in this far. It really doesn't like going in this far. But I did show the details, so just one of those things. So we match it up, do about the same height, roughly the same orientation, push it on, push it down, and then we'll just push that top in. So it just folds over the edge and looks like it's going through the back of the seat. And there we go. Last part to go on. Exactly the same all around. Trimmed it off, done the black around the edge, pushed the edges in, got it to sit in place. And there we go. It doesn't look too bad. It certainly looks better than the decals. It does give a 3D effect. It's nowhere near as good as fabrics, but it'll do for now. So here's all parts, all painted up, ready for assembly. We've got some yellow deluxe materials CA glue. I'm going to start putting everything together. Now, I can't go through every single part because this is a lot of work. So I'm just going to pick out a few points here and there. So a few dabs of CA glue. Make sure you got the right disc and it's facing the right way and it's on the right part, because once you glue them on, they are very difficult to get back off. These do fit really well. They probably don't even need gluing, to be honest. There we go, so that's all 4 of those done. Now we've got the components of the drive train. So this is simulating the drive shafts. We've got the inner wheel arches as well. So we've got the 2 suspension struts with calipers on, the drive shafts, and now these are the components to hold everything in place. So it's a little system that goes through. Now, I don't think you necessarily have to glue this because it is screwed through at the end, but I still had a few dabs of glue here and there. There we go, just a few dabs, not a massive amount. Just enough to securely hold it in place. Again, keep referring to the instructions if you're building this kit. They are a little bit, not busy, but everything goes with the right part, if that makes sense. So as you can see, we've got the front and rear sections on. The front one's already screwed in place. These screw down because they're on the metal chassis. So a couple of machine screws here. Pop them in place with our tweezers. And we've got a screwdriver. No idea what my Phillips screwdriver is. It's vanished, so we've got a Gerber multi-tool. It does the job. There we go. So that's those screwed in place. I've got the front radiator section, which just slots in the front there. There's 2 locating points for it. So just checking to make sure it fits, go the right way round. And a couple of dabs of CA glue will hold that in place as well. So like I said, it's a bit of a strange kit, this one. I never understood why Tamiya did the whole metal chassis. I assume it's to add a bit of more realistic weight to it. But doing it this way, I think it does lose a bit of detail in the actual kit. If you're just like me, and ideally, I'm not too bothered about the running gear or the interior. I try and do as good a job as I can. I could definitely up my game. For me, it's the exterior. As long as it looks good from the outside, I'm happy with what I'm building. But these are definitely a bit more simple kits. You could go to town, detail painting them, adding some detail parts. But for me, I'm happy with how this builds up. So steering wheel with its column in place. Making sure, thinking it looks a bit high, but okay. That's where it locates, that's where it goes. We've got most of our interior in place now. We're just going to follow the instructions, putting everything in where it should go, fairly straightforward. And we're just making sure we get the seats in. Make sure you get the correct seats in the right place. A couple of dabs of CA glue here and there. Press down a little bit, make sure it's nice and secure. And leave it to one side to dry for a little bit. So we've got our roll cage, got our helmet holder, settle down at the back. Careful dab of CA glue in there. Still going to detail paint the padding on the roll cage, so we'll do that in a little bit. But make sure this is facing the right way. Bit of CA glue, locate it in place. I normally forget about this part and have to install it once it's in the car, which is an absolute pig to do. So I'm glad I did this today. I remembered it's one of the parts I always forget about. So we've got some Vallejo model colour black, thinned with a drop of water. We've got a Winsor & Newton Series 7 brush. Mixed it all together. Shouldn't really use the brush, but I do. It's a bad habit. This one brush I've had for years and years. It's been absolutely abused to death. And we're just going to detail paint all the areas according to the instructions where there are padding to the roll cage. So a bit of careful brush painting, which is quite nice to do from time to time. Don't tend to brush paint all that much. Most of it is airbrushed. So it is nice to grab the old brush every now and then. And get a bit of paint down. It's quite relaxing. And just very carefully follow the instructions, looking for the call out of where and what needs doing. Fairly straightforward on this. Thinner the model colour with water as well. I think it's better than using thinner. I think it evaporates off a bit thinner and dries a bit quicker. Whereas with water, I think it stays usable a bit longer. So it's literally a splodge of the paint with one small drop of water. Thinner to eye, basically. Enough so it flows beautifully on the brush and on the model, but not enough that it doesn't quite cover. This is generally 2 coats, so don't be worried if you don't get full coverage with the first one. Let it dry, come back and apply a second coat. You're better off applying multiple coats than one big one. But again, we're just using instructions. Make sure we get every area covered, every angle. And there we go. For the most part, that's it done. A few more places to touch up. And we're all good to go. There we go. A couple of dabs of CA glue and the roll cage is in place. And another couple of dabs for our dashboard. There's a couple of locating points. They are quite visible as you look. Just lift up the front section, pop it in. There we go. That's those in place. It's a very good fitting kit. There's some of the Tamiya kits, the older ones, can be a little bit hit and miss sometimes with some of their parts. Although they're very well engineered, it can be a little bit confusing or a little bit daunting as to where parts go. On this, it's fairly obvious where everything goes. Sadly becoming a bit of a rare kit now. I've got 2 more in the stash. And yes, they're very, very hard to find. So I'll definitely be keeping a lookout for some more of them in the future. So we locate it in place, just making sure we've got the right way around. We need another screw, which has vanished on my bench. There we go. I'm going to screw it in place. Now, funny story, this screwdriver, it's a Barco flathead. It's bent because I've had this screwdriver for well over 20 years. This was my dad's screwdriver, and he tried to open a water main cover with it and bent it. It was brand spanking new, bent it, and yeah, when my dad passed away, it's one of the only tools I've got left behind. My dad was a plumber, as was I, and I've always kept it, and it sits in my drawer, and I keep it bent. I could straighten it quite easy. I like leaving it like that because, as I say, brings back the memory of my dad ruining a brand spanking new, pretty expensive screwdriver in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, I've got this. I've got a few other tools in the house still, set of footprints, a chisel, and what have you, that were my dad's. And yeah, I use them daily when I was plumbing still. And yeah, it's nice to have this kept at hand. There you go, my bent screwdriver. You ever wonder why? That's it. So it's perfect. It fits most screws. It really does fit everything. So yeah, it's always in the drawer and always gets pulled out for any use I need a bent screwdriver for. Polycaps, and there's 2 polycaps per wheel on this. Like I said, they are a different fitment than normal. So once they're in, the male part are on the hubs on these. And there we go. They push in place. There's all our chassis and interior done. All we've got to do is add our door cards. Now, there were some decals for this. Sadly, it went to the bin. because I screwed them up basically. I put them in place and they just fell to bits. Sadly, with Tamiya decals, they can do that from time to time, especially the older ones. Well, only the older ones. The new ones are really good, actually. But the older ones can be hit and miss. And yeah, they just fell to bits. So yeah, in the bin, made a... what's the word I'm looking for? I made a decision to get rid of them. Executive decision is the word I'm looking for. So a couple of dabs. There's a couple of locating points on the roll cage. You just see it there. So we're just putting a light couple of dabs there. Find our bench screwdriver. Locating point at the bottom. Push it in. Hold it. A couple of seconds to get some purchase. And there we go. There's all our interior and running gear done. There's a couple of things I forgot. I need to add a wash to some of the parts, and I need to do the rogue wheel nuts. I forgot to do them on the wheels. We've got the spare wheel on the back. Now, this is one of the screw points for the body, but we're just going to add a dab of CA glue here and there to glue the wheel in place for now. And there we go. There's all our chassis, its running gear, the interior done, all ready for coming back in part 3 to get it all finished off. So that's us for today. Let's go back to me and have a little chat. So there we go, that's where we're at today. Good progress, not too bad at all. Like I say, about 4 days work there, a few hours a day, so quite a lot of work, a lot of parts, a lot of painting, but we're going to all together. It looks okay. It's like I said in the video, it's not the most detailed kit. It's a nice kit, but I think because of the way Tamiya designed it, it misses out a bit of detail here and there. But it's a lovely kit. I've built it twice already. I really do like that kit. And in this scheme, it's going to look absolutely stunning, I hope. So really looking forward to getting this done. Interiors and running gear aren't my forte. It's not my most enjoyable bit. I try and give my all. I know there's a lot of areas I could improve on. I like the look of the car. The exterior look, you can see through to the interior. You can see all the detail. But yeah, I've super detailed the car before, and it didn't really interest me all that much. So whether I'll do it again, I don't know. Really don't know. But there we go. That's where we're at today. So part 3, we can come back now. We can sand and polish our body. It doesn't need a lot because it's pretty good out the gun. We can do all our glass work, including the lights, the windscreen. And that's it, really. There's not a lot to do to the body now. So the next part should be out fairly soon. I'm going to carry on working with this straight away. I'm not going to put it down. Probably going to crack straight on. So hopefully we have another part out in 4 days. 4 or 5 days. And we'll get this one off the bench, done, and move on to our next project, which you might be interested in, but you might not see for a while. We shall see. Keep that one quiet for a minute. And there we go. So let me know what your thoughts in the chat down below in the comments. I do read all the comments and appreciate every single one. Unless they're about book bindings, and I don't really care at all. Really don't care. But anyway. There we go. Thanks for watching today. As always, check out International Scale Model Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com, where you can get most of the products I use in my videos. There's a link in the description linking it to nearly everything I use in the videos. So if you see something, Hannah's just sneezed. I don't know if you heard that, so bless you, Hannah. If you see anything in there that you want to use or look at, go to the list. It'll probably be in there. Check out my Paul ISM Facebook page as well, where all my personal model work is shared. Live at the Bench page for the live show and the Off Air Hangout group as well. The links to all these are in the description of the video down below. And make sure you sub, click the bell notification, give the video a thumbs up, and leave a comment. So I'll catch you very soon for part 3. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.